All right, let's get
It
to our
is.
picks. As Caleb's got it rolling here, our picks are always brought to you by our friend Don Self. Don Self, State Farm customer service still matters. State Farm agent Don Self and his team take customer service seriously for well over 40 years. They have built their business and reputation on taking care of their customers in Collegedale, Ottawa, as well as the greater Chattanooga area. Don and his team pride themselves on making sure you and your family won't have any surprises at the time of a claim. Customer service still matters. I know prices are important, but Don Self brings you these picks. So you want to lead us off, and I'll tell you if I agree or disagree by a
Hey now.
that's a good pick or a
That's crazy.
all right. What do we got?
Can
Game
you get?
number one.
Are you going to give me a Peyton for a pick you think is really bad?
No, I don't want to go that far
Okay.
because it's a little racy.
All right. So moving on. I'll just give you guys.
I tell you what, I can give you a new one.
That's hot.
How about that?
Love it. Love it. All right. So
I'm always working, Caleb.
That's hot.
All right, there you go.
I have to confess, I was 8-13 last week, 2-3 on best bets. However,
13.
I'm still 118 and 104 on the season and 19 and 18 on best bets, and it's time to make a comeback. So let's start. Ole Miss, Louisiana Monroe. Ole Miss covers the 37-point spread, and it hits the over. If anybody's going to run up the score for fun against a lesser team, it's Lane Kiffin.
That's hot.
I'll take it.
All right. Southern Miss at Mississippi.
That, by the way, is officially our new.
Hey now.
All right. There we go.
I would bet all the welfare money that Brett Favre stole to build a volleyball stadium at Southern Miss that Southern Miss covers this game against Mississippi State. Southern Miss
That's
plus
hot.
14. Southern Miss
Aren't
plus
you rooting
14.
for Mississippi State, though, because they had to get rid of a coach because we know why? I mean, I'm kind of rooting for the Bulldogs.
I am, but I think a lot of them are unhappy about Zach Arnett being fired. I think a lot of players think he was wronged, if I'm going to be honest with you. And I
Smoky
think
Mountain Red says he was a poor man's Allen Iverson. There are so many jokes talking about Tony Harris. I could go there.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, Allen Iverson has been a poor man's Allen Iverson as he was asking for a burger outside of a mall in Atlanta. Second, a very poor man's Allen Iverson. If Allen Iverson's 6'5", he's the best player to ever step foot on a basketball court.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
That's a very good point. So I've also got the under 47.5 because I don't think Mississippi State will score. But yeah. All right. So moving on, Arizona, Utah. Arizona covers. It's a 1-point spread. They're at home. They're the hottest team in college football right now. I got the over with Arizona and Utah. So is that just
I'm just pretty much agreeing with everyone because I'm terrible at picks and I love this drop.
Oh, you're not going to agree with me on this one, Dave.
What do you got?
I almost wanted to change this in real time because of the reporting you told me, because I do believe in reporting and I do believe in, different information, and that's how Vegas says
Are
their
you
line
saying
bet.
you believe in my reporting, Caleb?
Yes,
That makes
I
me
do.
feel good. Thank
Yes.
you.
But I still have Georgia covering the 10-point spread, and I have the under 58.5. I just think the culture on campus of fair weather fans not caring is going to infect the players on Saturday.
Gosh, I hope not. I hope not. That would be sad. Rick Terry Jewelry Design, where they want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals, a Tennessee tradition? RickTerryJewelry.com. RickTerryJewelry.com.
All right. So
what do we got next?
Kansas, I'm going to move on. There are a few. So New Mexico State, Auburn. I think New Mexico State covers a 24-point spread only because Auburn's looking ahead to the Iron Bowl, and it's going to be the under because Chiswick's offense hasn't really hit its stride yet. I got Kansas State covering the 7.5 over Kansas, largely because I think Lance Leipold is interviewing for some jobs right now. I'm going to be honest, and I think that's going to distract Kansas.
That's crazy.
All right, I'm going to flip with you on that one. I'm going in the other direction. What do we got up next?
All right, so a couple more. Washington is playing at Oregon State. Dave, Oregon State's favored by 2.5. You don't think Washington is going to take that personally?
Should. They should.
Yeah, so I think because of that, they blow out Oregon State. Michael Penix has his Heisman game and the over hits. So
what? Who did you say would have a big game?
Michael Penix.
That's hot.
All right.
And wait, one more because I got to give you
Okay.
this one because this is because of your reporting, by the way. Because of what you told me about Eli Drinkwitz. I got Florida covering the 11.5 against Missouri this weekend.
There's no question they'll cover the 11.5. That is the easiest. You remember me telling you how I get fills about 5 or 6 times a year, but I don't gamble, but the ones I'm sure about, I promise you, Florida will cover.
Yeah, they will. And the under will hit because Missouri invested too much. The under 58.5 because it sounds like Missouri invested too much in last week's game, didn't they? And
Yes.
so, yeah. So here's another one. Because Sam Pittman's a dead man walking, I got Florida International covering at Arkansas and the overhitting. But Dave, you can tell me on this. There's two types of coaches that are dead men walking. Some are like coaches, they're dead men walking like Ed Orgeron, but the players love them. So they'll play hard for him because the players did love Ed Orgeron. And then there's some where it's Derek Dooley, where I don't think the players like Derek Dooley at all. And
No, I think I will disagree with you here because I think a Pittman's a rally around you guy.
you think he's a rally around you guy?
Yeah, he seemed.
He's
I mean,
kinda one
I
of the
haven't covered
guys.
him, but doesn't he seem like a player's coach
He
guy?
does. He
Yeah.
does. He
So I'm gonna
seems like the Ed Orgeron that might take his shirt off and like do some drills with you.
Yeah, and I'll tell you too. There's reason to root for Arkansas because I was doing some digging on a column that I wrote. Do you know Arkansas has one of the best collectives in the nation? A top 10 collective according to On3. That surprised you a little bit?
Shocking, actually.
Surprised me too. It's because all that Walmart money. You basically can't live in the Fayetteville area without making $100,000 a year, bare minimum. I'm talking bare minimum because they got Walmart right up the road in Bentonville. But if you want to root, I think you root for Arkansas and Sam Pittman to keep his job because you don't want to tussle with their NIL money. And who would you tussle with? Most likely receivers, skill position players. Those are the ones that Tennessee would care about. So I think you want Sam Pittman to keep that job so you don't have to compete with another NIL initiative. Because I'm going to tell you, from what I'm hearing, the Texas A&M one is about to get really, really serious because they realize they flubbed up with Jimbo Fisher. So you're going to have Tennessee's the number one NIL collective, the Spire Group in the SEC. There's no question about that. Close second is going to be A&M within 6 months. Guarantee that'll be a close second. They're already number 2 right now.
Yeah, they're already number 2. The good thing for Tennessee is that the other 4 collectives are like Miami, Texas A&M, and you say Arkansas that might compete. All of them are going to be in the market for a new coach within the next 2 years because Miami ain't lasting with Mario Cristobal. They should fire him now anyway. But
right, but I think that I know,
and that NIL's a factor with coach hirings because it affects how you structure your buyout nowadays. You can't just do what you used to do with Jimbo Fisher anymore.
No, and I think Arkansas can do better than Sam Pittman. So that would be my argument there. You don't want them saying, "Look at what Tennessee is doing. They're going this up tempo thing. Let's go find one of those guys," because then you're going to compete with him for similar top players. And listen, at the end of the day, an athletic director is a businessman. 8-5 Josh Heupel style sells a lot easier than 8-5 Sam Pittman style
or Jerry
right?
Pruitt style. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because he did go 8-5 his second year at Tennessee, but it was a boring 8-5. But yeah, so a couple more. I think Georgia State's going to cover the 31-point spread at LSU because I think that they're going to score a bunch of points against LSU's defense that doesn't care with nothing to play for. But go with the over 72.5. I think there might be 100 in this game. LSU and Georgia State.
I like that. I like that pick.
Yep. All right, so bets of the week. Georgia State covering at LSU is my plus bet of the week. My favorite that's covering. Clemson's going to cover the 6.5-point spread against North Carolina, Dave. They're going to beat North Carolina by 30. They got him at home. North Carolina had an emotional win last week against Duke. Dabo Swinney is on a mission to shut everybody up that was questioning him. And
I agree. That's not I don't think that's a hot one, though. That's just like a, hey now.
Yeah, Clemson's going to, it's 6.5 Clemson. I would do an alternate spread of like 20, honestly, and you get more money. All right, so money line pick, my upset of the week, my super dog. I missed on them last week barely, but I'm going to go Colorado again. I still think they got one upset left in them. They're playing Washington State, which has lost 6 straight. Colorado's a 4-point underdog. I think Colorado finally gets money line this week and wins.
That's hot.
Don't they have to be bowl eligible? Aren't they right?
They have to win. They have to win both games. They're not going to win both games, but they'll win one of two and finish 5-7. By the way, a game I missed during the regular one. The wrong team is favored with South Carolina, Kentucky. Kentucky's favored by 1.5. South Carolina should be favored. They're at home. They're going to win. Take the over on that one.
You know what?
They're like, that is total bullshit.
I'm actually going with South Carolina on this one.
I'm going with South Carolina too.
I'm sorry. I'm actually going with Kentucky over South Carolina on this one.
Wow, Dave. Okay.
And you know why? It's just
Why?
because how the SEC in the bottom half gets just all jumbled and jambled at the end of the year. And sometimes it's better just to be different because the South Carolinas, the Missouri, well, Missouri's better than usual, but the South Carolinas, the Kentuckys, not even the Vanderbilt, they're a whole nother level of low, but all those low teams tend to win one they shouldn't at the end of the year, right?
Yep, exactly. They do. Couple
You got
more real quick.
picks.
That's hot.
All right. So I already told you guys New Mexico State and Auburn. The best play there is the under, just because of how off and on Gene Chiswick's offense has been all year. And so I don't think you're going to see a total of 48.5. I see like a 25-10 type of game with them in New Mexico State.
Is that the first time that Gene Chiswick's name has been brought up on the program?
Sorry.
And
Oh my gosh. I meant, what is wrong with me? I'm going to say Hugh Freeze. Did I say Gene Chiswick?
yes, you did.
Guys,
And-
total brain lapse.
Yeah. What are you
I got Booker
doing
brain.
there? Right.
Um,
And this is what Hugh Freeze is used to hearing,
That's hot.
even though he has to pay somebody to say it. All right. What else?
The last one I missed last week with USC and Oregon, the under hit, but I'm still going back to USC and the over. It's USC and UCLA over 66.5. I think USC and UCLA hits that over pretty easily. Actually, wait.
Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh?
Chip Kelly fired, by the way.
And not confirmed, but there's rumors that he will be, which is why with USC playing at home, Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams, UCLA being finesse, Chip Kelly may get fired. USC alone might hang 65, right?
Is it better for Tennessee for Kentucky to continue to be in Kentucky and have Stoops there, or them to get really aggressive and hire a guy like Chip Kelly and have more of an offensive-minded coach? You know, that was the mindset for years, that you had to have an offensive-minded coach to create and manufacture points with Hal Mumme and as an offensive coordinator, Mike Leach. That hasn't been the case really since Stoops has been there. But is that the best way to pile up wins in the Commonwealth?
I think it's better for Tennessee if they go for Chip Kelly, largely because Chip Kelly is like Bobby Petrino and is like, unfortunately, we have to say rest
That's
in peace,
hot.
the late Mike Leach. Another one for Petrino. But
how many coaches have been involved in these sexual malfeasance issues?
you know, also Mike Price, another offensive mind, another great scandal.
That's hot.
But I will say it's better for Tennessee if Kentucky goes for one of those, because they're offensive minds who the game has passed by. Chip Kelly has not adapted at all to the change. Chip Kelly is the guy who thought he was so much smarter than everybody else, but then didn't change. If you want an offensive mind, but you want to, I always go back to it. I'm realizing this, Dave, with offensive minds. There are very few Steve Spurrier offensive minds. And what I mean by that is Steve Spurrier was a great offensive mind who could adjust with the changing times when people figured him out. Most coaches that are offensive coaches can't do that.
I would argue he was slow to do that, though, in the early 2000s. In 2001, that's how Tennessee beat him. I mean,
Yeah, but he still went 10-2 in 2001 and had his
Right.
best statistical season ever with Rex Grossman.
yeah,
He
well, I
turned
mean,
Rex
we're,
Grossman into an NFL quarterback.
yeah, I mean, we're nitpicking. We're talking about one of the most elite coaches of all time. Talk about elite sports treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia. Go to facebook.com and look for Sports Treasures TN. Daily updates, and it's pretty darn awesome. What's the one coach that you don't want to get fired?
For Tennessee.
If you're Tennessee, the one, I think it's Billy Napier, hands down. I don't think it's close.
I actually think it's Shane Beamer. And the reason I think it's Shane Beamer is because you compete more with South Carolina for similar recruits, not with Billy Napier. And I think Shane Beamer is not going to look. Shane Beamer, I think I want to make a prediction, Dave. You know, 3 of the people that Tennessee was targeting last year, one who committed, who ended up going to South Carolina because of that South Carolina game. One of those players is going to end up at Tennessee.
I heard a rumor Shane Beamer could go to state. Go to
Mississippi State. Yeah, but what's a better? Would you take Mississippi State? I think South Carolina's a better job than Mississippi State, don't you?
Yeah, but I'm not sure that South Carolina is going to want him in a couple of weeks. I think it may be his. I think it may be his exit strategy.
To go, I mean, I could see that.
Save
You
a
know,
job.
it's funny.
Go there and make it look like they pulled you away.
Yeah, that might be interesting. But would Mississippi State want that? You know, a great,
That's the
interesting
question.
history tidbit before we get
I
out of
would
here.
call
Dave, is-
I would call Dan Mullen if I'm Mississippi State.
I agree. I think Dan Mullen's get him back.
I don't
By
think
the
there's
way,
I don't think there's another good hire. I think he's the one great hire.
Great quick history lesson for you guys. You know that Mississippi, the state debated whether or not to have an ag school and a academic school in the 1870s, and that's where Mississippi State and Ole Miss both come from. They created both. If you guys look at the NFL talent per capita, Mississippi blows every other state out of the water by far. If they had just one school in the state of Mississippi, do you guys realize how good that football program would have been?
Very good. Herald Group Security Solutions. It would also help them if one wasn't considered racist.
Yes, that is very true.
I mean, that would probably help Ole Miss. And I don't think they are anymore, but they were just as
They
little as
fought
10
for the
years ago.
longest time against a lot of things.
Yeah. Herald Group Security Solutions, leadership experience, specialization, addressing problems through unique mission-specific mitigation techniques, making your children safer one school at a time, and your workplace as well. HeraldGRP.com. Go to your administrator at work or the administrator at your child's school and say, you've got to go to Herald Group Security Solutions. Just Google them, find them, HeraldGRP.com. If you can't write it down, it's right below there, wherever you're listening or watching. And they will make your children safer. They'll make your workplace safer. It's time to avoid the terrible tragedies that have marred our country in recent history. So tomorrow on the program, we'll be visited by Fred White, who I'm going to go ahead and give you a tip, if I may, Caleb. And that is not to say, would it be a good thing if Tennessee lost close to Georgia? Because Fred White is a Georgia man, and he's not okay with losing close to anybody. So I wanted to give you that piece of information before we get in front of Fred, and you were to perhaps say, you know, if they were in a close game, which I said earlier in the show, if it was a close game, it still could potentially help recruiting. I just want to go ahead and get that out of the way so you don't make Fred mad, because he's scary in person.
Well, this is going to trigger a lot of Tennessee fans. Fred White, I respect him. Fred White thinks like a champion because he was a champion. So he thinks like a champion as a Tennessee player. I think for Tennessee, the program that it is right now, which is not a championship program. So
no,
it's
I'm not arguing with you. I'm definitely not arguing with you.
I think a lot of the champions on the 98 team have a really hard time sometimes accepting that Tennessee's not a championship program right now. And sometimes you have to remind them it's not what it was when you guys were there. It's kind of like when you have to remind Michael Jordan as a GM, they can't do what you can do.
Okay, but it's a championship contending program right now, because they were beaten contending. They were beaten on the door of the Final Four. I think they're at that level. That they got to take another step, but I think they're at the level of beating on the door year in and year out.